It's been 3 days and no one can find 23-year-old Denise Huber. The Newport Beach woman was last seen heading home from a concert.
Denise Huber's disappearance.
She stuck her head in the door. We were watching television, and she just said, "I love you both, and don't worry about me," and she left.
June of 1991, her disappearance gripped Californians, playing on televisions across the state. 23-year-old Denise Huber had gotten a flat tire on a Costa Mesa highway and pulled over to get help. Her car was found abandoned on the freeway. She was never seen again. 400 miles away from the bustling California suburb,
A lot of history here.
a place much different. Prescott, Arizona.
It's still that quaint small town feel.
Had you heard of Denise Huber?
Never before this.
That changed in July of 1994. Scott Masher is the sheriff of Yavapai County, but 25 years ago was a young lieutenant for the department. He made a call to California authorities, shocked he was making it at all.
I remember when I first called them and said I have a missing person, and I gave them the name of Denise Huber. They were like, "What?"
Denise Huber had been found 3 years later, but in a way nobody ever expected. And it all started with a young couple who owned a Phoenix paint supply business.
It never leaves our mind.
Jack and Elaine Court.
There was a swap meet in Prescott Valley that was nice and cool.
The two met a man there that July in '94, John Familaro, who painted houses and had extra paint to sell. He said he had moved from California 6 months ago.
So we made arrangements after the swap meet on Sunday to go to his house and buy some from him.
685 Cochise Drive in Dewey, a short distance away from the swap meet, where Jack and Elaine noticed something odd on his driveway.
The Ryder truck that he had told us he used to move back was sitting alongside of his driveway, and grass had grown up 6 or 8 inches around the wheels.
They thought he might have stolen it.
So I mentioned to Elaine, I said, without being obvious, get the numbers on the Ryder truck.
The two wrote down the license plate and serial numbers and left. They gave it to a Phoenix police detective who happened to pick up a paint order from them that week. And while he was at their store, his beeper went off.
I only heard him say body, a freezer. He said, "She's right here." And he said, "Detective Masher and Prescott wants to talk to you."
Masher and his team found out the Ryder truck had never been returned to California. And when they opened it, they found paint supplies. But way in the back was a large freezer with electrical cords plugged in. So they opened it.
There was big black plastic bags in there, and you could tell something was in it. He felt those bags and said, I believe I feel an arm.
Inside was a dead woman in the fetal position, frozen and handcuffed. For days, they waited for her to thaw out. And once they got a fingerprint, they made the identity. It was Denise Huber.
I remember talking with the family, the father and the mother, and it was very hard.
The search of Familaro's home began, and the evidence found inside was overwhelming. Denise's clothes, her concert ticket, weapons, and Los Angeles Sheriff's uniforms. Masher believes Familaro had posed as law enforcement to act like he would help her.
He hit her with the hammer. I don't think that was the blow that killed her.
Then they say he took her to a storage unit.
And I believe that's when he probably at some point, real quick or sometime later, then used the nail bar to kill her.
I hadn't given up, but when she was found, it was final. She was never going to come back. We were never going to be able to find her, and it was all over then.
The question that everybody has is, do you believe there are more victims out there?
I do. I don't think this was the first time he had done something like this. We had interviewed some other girls that knew him.
One woman they interviewed was a Phoenix prostitute.
He had taken her out into some remote area outside of Phoenix, and she said she had to fight to get out of the car and run into the desert to escape from being killed. She had never reported it to the police, but we had her driver's license because she had left her purse in the car.
And you found her license in his house.
Yes, we found the license in the house.
And that wasn't all. They found nearly 12 driver's licenses of other women too.
And a lot of different clothing, female clothing, dresses, underwear, shoes.
But even though cadaver dogs detected a human scent under his home, they never found anyone else. The case that captivated the media came to an end. John Familaro now sits on death row in California. The spotlight dimmed and left in its place a small town that has healed but will never forget.
Prescott has its own very historical, colorful past, and unfortunately this bad incident ties into the rest of it.
But for a case that's closed, open wounds remain, and those may never go away.
I do believe there's other victims, and I'd like to know who they are, where they are,
What happened to them?
what happened to them.
So the question Denise's parents have had all these years is, why Denise? Well, last year they received a letter from somebody close to John Familaro. They called that man who told them when Denise went missing, John had recently dated a woman who left him, and that girl looked just like Denise.